Wellness with Mo podcast, the podcast that discusses all mental health issues and wellness issues. We get different guests from around the world that share their amazing stories and journeys through difficult and challenging times. Welcome back to another episode of Wellness with Mo. Hi, my name is Mo, and this week's episode I have an amazing person. She is a former police officer and co-owner of the Growth Pod. Emma Coller. I hope, of course, I pronounced your name, Emma, correctly. How are you? How's everything? And I'm really excited for today's episode.
I'm really great. Thanks, Mo. Thanks for asking me here. In the UK, and we've finally got some sunshine, which is very nice. It always makes you feel much better, doesn't it, when the sun's out?
I'm really jealous and envy of you. We have sunshine and everything's good. We have sunshine here, but it's quite cold for January. But that's normal. It's like we have a week or so, then things start to warm, and then we go into the spring break. So I'm really interested to know more about you, and it's really amazing. Like I said to many guests before you. I'm so humbled and privileged to meet amazing individuals around the world and to bring them closer to my part of the world where people want to listen and see and try and relate that they can become a different person, because it's a normal thing. It's not we're not magicians, or we have a magic stick to become different. So I like always to start off with the podcast with simple thing. What's your journey like? How did you become from a former police officer to the co-owner of Growth Pod? And what is Growth Pod? Because I don't think my listeners really know what it is.
Okay, yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Well, I guess if we start with where I'm at right now, and then move backwards, if that's okay, probably would make more sense.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Growth Pod, my colleague and I, Chris Gibson, Chris is ex-military. So he has done some incredible things in his own right. We met and just felt a real connection together in some of our thinking, our values, and made a decision that we wanted to create a company. So we created Growth Pod, which is a company that is interested in creating outstanding workplace cultures. So we were both really interested in how do we help organizations to create these amazing places that people can go to work and they feel good and they can flourish and they can feel engaged and they can feel motivated. And the reason that we do that is because Chris has experienced that from him, from his work in the military and working in extreme circumstances, and really understands what the elements are that helps to create that outstanding culture and connection. And I have also experienced what it's like to work in a culture that's not so great. So I was a police officer. I joined the police service after university. So I went to university, studying psychology, social science, social policy. And I met there a police officer, and he was an inspector, an incredible character, really wonderful person. And the police were paying for him to do his degree. He was doing the same degree that I was doing. And I was always kind of a little bit unsure, even at university, what did I want to do? So I knew I wanted to do something around service, serving others. So I was kind of between, was it going to be like social work or probation or something in that kind of field? And he said to me, "Oh my gosh, Emma, come and see what it's like to be in the police." And back in the day, he let me spend some time with some of his officers, and I went out in a police car on patrol with them, and I was hooked. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just the best job ever. So I applied to join. So my first job out of university, really, my biggest job was as a police officer. And I went through my police training, and it was incredible. I really enjoyed it. And then in the police service at that point, you went away to do your training and then you came back to the force that you were going to be working in. And you weren't in a tutor unit, so it was a place, a space, a safe space that you could start to embed all of your learning. And then you eventually went onto a shift. And I was put onto a shift with a sergeant who then, over time, consistently bullied me and sexually harassed me. So pretty much the first 2 years of my police service, I did not have a good time. I found that I was in this place where the culture was really toxic. We're seeing so much in the media right now around policing and how toxic policing is in the UK, internally, with bullying and harassment, victimization. We've seen some really extreme examples, more recently, with police officers obviously committing incredibly serious crimes here in the UK, and a lot of work trying to be done about how to unpick that culture. And it was embedded through all of the layers and levels. One of the first things I remember was that when you came into the police, into the tutor unit, they would put all of your pictures on the wall, for example. And I found out later on, I didn't realize at the time, that some of the men that worked in the police station would come down and pick out who was the prettiest police officer that was just starting, and who might be the first person to turn the head of that person, if I say that in a polite way. And this was just accepted as normal behavior. And eventually, my own personal journey through those first few years of having someone who was there to support me. They were my manager, my leader, my sergeant, was a person who should have been supporting my growth and development, helping me to settle and understand how to do this job more effectively, was doing the complete opposite of what was required. And I think as things started to unravel and they realized that actually they were going to be found out for what they had done, they turned like my shift against me. They'd said really unkind things about me to other people to obviously try and isolate me from the rest of the team. It started to unravel and they tried to get me into trouble, which resulted in the sort of the more formal process of a grievance process being put in place. And it was as I was being interviewed and they were looking at my work and things like this, that it was the group that were doing that, senior police officers, that said, actually, this doesn't add up. We've been told that you're not very good at your job. We've been told that your work's not in order, but actually we're looking at everything that you've got and it's all probably one of the best on the entire shift. And it was them actually that said, we think you're being bullied here. And it was so interesting, Mo, that I'd spent 2 years internalizing, almost being a victim of this toxic bullying behavior, thinking it was me, it was my fault, it was something that I was doing, for someone else to point out, actually, this is not you, it's them. And it was seen for that. And the sergeant that had been sexually harassing and bullying me was eventually disciplined. And the discipline looked like they got a note in their book and I got moved. Again, if you think about that in an organizational culture of the victim of bullying, the victim of sexual harassment by a senior officer being the one that had to move, that is not okay. We still see that kind of behavior. But actually, in being moved to a different station under a different leadership team, that's when I started to thrive, because I now had a leadership team who were incredible. I was taken onto a shift where I had 2 incredible sergeants and an inspector who put me back together. They understood what had happened. They supported and helped put me back together again. And I started to really flourish in the work that I was doing. So within just a few short years of joining the police service, I went from this kind of really toxic environment to one that was outstanding, that helped me to flourish and thrive. And whilst I might not have recognized it at the time, it's only now that I look back on that and realize the impact that culture and leadership has on our ability as human beings and individuals. and the impact that that not just has in the workplace, but the impact that had on the victims that I was trying to help in my work as a police officer, also my family, but outside of that, because I really believe that if we get it right, it doesn't just impact the individual, but it impacts outside. So if I'm feeling sad and upset, then it has a direct impact on the person that I'm speaking to in the shop, the friendships that I've got, the relationships that I was having, the relationship with my parents, because I'm sad, I'm upset. So part of what we do right now stems from that place and really feeling that if we get culture right, if we get leadership right, we can change the world. It sounds very utopian, but I really believe that that's
No,
true.
it's not really utopian. Excuse me. It's really common sense because I can relate to what you're saying very much, MM, because last few years I was in a corporate company here in Egypt. It was one of the biggest telecom companies, not just in Egypt but in the region. And I always say this to my friends, and they don't really they don't really understand. But I always tell them, when we say there's chemistry between two individuals, it goes the same way. If there's no chemistry between the individual and the organization, then there's no way I'll be able to thrive or do my work. So that company, I went in. A lot of weird things happened that way. I applied to a job like any other person through an online ad, and I discovered that the job just was not really there. It was an idea that they wanted to put in work. And I was the first person there, so I had no idea what the job is required. I had no kind of benchmarking. The leadership there didn't understand what they wanted. They had some kind of weird, exciting idea, and it only lasted for 1 month. Then after that, the leadership decided, no, scrape it all off. So I was literally, after a month, there was no job title in a company. I had 3 months probation, so I didn't understand what's going to happen to me, especially coming from a year of unemployment. So I was, like any normal person, afraid and didn't really know what's going to happen. And other things started to happen. After that, that same manager sent me to a different department. Skill set there didn't work out. I tried my best. The manager there was very toxic. Didn't help. Wanted to kick me out of the company, and I really fought very hard. I got what I wanted, and I told HR at that time because I wasn't that young, and I understood how things go. I told them he didn't coach me, he didn't help me, he didn't teach me, he didn't support me. I just learned things by myself alone. So don't blame me if I perform. And it kept on going for like 2 years. I left him. I went to another team in another department, so on and so forth. And all the time, I felt really depressed, really sad, very, not introverted as much as, but I didn't want anyone to get to know anyone. Just leave me alone. And I kept on saying that to my parents, my wife, my in-laws. No one really understood that being depressed affects your work. And it's not, like I said to other guests, it's not a magic button off. I'm a happy person, and on I'm a depressed person. It doesn't go like it. It's a process. It takes time, and I needed help. And so that's part of what happened. And of course, the Corona started. And I thought that after the Corona, and that's my question to you, companies would wake up and change their attitude towards employees and towards mental health, towards wellness at the workplace. Um, I don't know if it's the same in the UK, but here in Egypt, still mental health and wellness is the lowest priority for any company here in Egypt. It's
Yeah.
the last thing. And me and a lot of good coaches I know, we are trying to advocate, trying to make people aware that if your employees are unhappy, if they have mental issues, they're stressed, they're anxious, if they're on the verge of burning out, then your company is going down. My
Mhm.
won't go down. And even if you want to lay them off and get new people, the cost of training and getting those people up to speed and everything, it's a big cost for the company. It's not an easy thing. But still today, there are companies that say they have mental health and wellness initiatives, but it's all just a smoke screen for to get the employees there. There are some companies, there's still hope. There are some companies, but very little that are really, put the employee number one. So I don't know. My question to you is it the same in your area?
Yeah. So I think that many organizations now have woken up to the idea that we need to be of service to our people, that it's important that we look out for and look after our people. Things are really changing around mental health, around conversations, around well-being. I think some of the problems are that many organizations like the idea that they're a well-being company. One of our strap lines is people first. So what we try and help companies to understand is if you put your people first, they will take care of the outcomes. Most organizations go to outcomes. So they're looking at, whatever they're producing, their goods, their services, so that outward facing customer serving brand. We try and flip that and say, you have to look at your employee brand. So how are you branding for your employees? What is the employee journey, the employee experience? Because of course we know, and it's such simple science, that when we help people to flourish and thrive, they do their best work. I think a lot of people understand the concept of that. And so they talk about it in their organizations. I think that the problem that we still have is they don't know how. They don't know how to do it. So they like the idea. They know it's the right thing to do from a moral perspective, but they're still struggling with how. And COVID was a really interesting time because we all experience our own individual personal traumas. And those traumas have a direct impact on our ability to understand and experience the world around us. And for many of us, we live in this technology-based world where everything is very quick. We are distracting ourselves more and more from being able to lean into our emotions and our feelings. And the rise of Amazon, I think, is a really good example of that. So many people can, and even I've got a 14-year-old and sometimes he wants something and he'll say, just Amazon it. It's this kind of, there's a language around just Amazon it because I can have it instantly. And so I think that for many of us, we have a lot of trauma that we haven't dealt with. And because we distract ourselves, from all the kind of hedonic happiness stuff. So hedonic happiness being the things that we get joy and pleasure from, hedonistic, buying, drinking, gambling, whatever it might be. We're just consistently numbing. And I think that COVID was a collective trauma. So as a race of human beings, we've never been more connected through trauma because of COVID. But actually, when COVID hit and people started to work from home, work intensified for many people. There became a disconnect between work and home life. And I think that we still haven't found the boundaries around that. There's a blur, it's still very blurred. And so we're seeing people talking about well-being in organizations and trying to understand and manage it without recognizing that actually most of us in our workplaces are still haven't processed this collective trauma of COVID, that people are still have this intensification in relation to the work that they're doing from home. We live in this loneliness epidemic. Everyone's feeling really lonely. There's some research a few years ago that loneliness, the effect on the body is the equivalent of smoking. I think it was like 15 cigarettes a day. I think it was Holt and Luntad's work, and so actually, so many of us are in this space, and until we enable people the space to release and understand the trauma that they've experienced that's now impacting their work on a day-to-day basis, we're all just kind of rushing through. I don't think organizations are going to be able to, they really need to think about how they're going to support people differently. But it's that piece of them finding that they know they should, but they don't know how.
But one of the guests that I had, Hamid, he's a high performance coach. He lives in Frankfurt, Germany, and we had that same discussion. And I told him, for me, I have four simple things that organizations can do with no cost at all, and it's basically very easy. So the first one would be that let people not go on social media for like I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Let them have a break. Let them go out, walk, see the sun, see the birds, breathe in the fresh air. I'm not saying talking about meditation, just saying just be by yourself without anything in your pockets or a watch or whatever. Just be. This is one. The other thing is they can, and I've seen this in Egypt here. We have a company here who have designed meeting rooms, but a meditation room. So you can go and meditate. So go and meditate, stay there. That's the same. Third thing, and I think that's maybe a better way to do it, is that management should have like I don't know, a monthly, a weekly, I don't know how it will go, of I would say vulnerable talk or the vulnerability of talking or whatever. I don't know, a circle, and it should be a circle of safe space where managers, employees, leaders sit together and be as vulnerable as possible. No judgment. And I think Simon Sinek, the writer, Infinite Games book, he said that if you create a safe space for employees, employees will be vulnerable, will share what they have, and they will, work their heart. You don't need employees to be loyal. You need employees to love what they do, and they will be loyal regardless what they know what they're doing has impact. They have a good management. The problem is, I had so many managers. None of them have that concept of if I make a mistake, I'm only a human being. I can make a mistake, big, small. It's a mistake, but you have to teach me why I made the mistake, and you have to be at the back, have my back. Case is like go back or there's an issue. That doesn't happen. The manager throws me in front of the fire. Yeah, it's him. He did the mistake. That's it. So
Yeah.
so it's the same thing. I'm guessing like the story you told, your sergeant most probably, from what I hear, would have said, yeah, she's the one who did that, or yeah, she's the one who did that, didn't fill that report. Anything to put you in the line of fire so that you can take all the blame and all the. So this is what so these are very cost effective. Nothing. They don't require any kind of intervention from a company like yours or a coach or anything. It's just common sense. For me, it's common sense. Create an environment that has safety, and people will thrive, and will will work uh, their whole heart. And today, I'm working with two lovely women in a coaching company, very small company. But the difference between them and a big company is that they have my back, and so I give all my heart, and and I don't mind. I can work till at night, give all my heart, and do the best I can for them. So that's the difference. This is not like a company with 1,000 employees. We're like 2 or 3 people in the company, so it's not big. So we know who makes the mistake. I mean, if there's a mistake, that's going to happen. It's only one of us who did it. But the idea is, I feel safe. I belong. That's the main idea.
Mm.
So my question is, because I have people have difficulty to understand, and I heard one of your videos. What's the difference between stress, anxiousness, fear, and flow? I know they're big words, but I really want to know from you as an expert, what's the difference between all four?
Okay, so stress, anxiousness, and flow, I think you said.
And fear. And fear.
Fear.
Yeah. Because they all, I think they're all intertwined and interlinked in some kind of way. But even here in Egypt, the word stress with the word anxious, they're interchangeable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who wants to say I'm stressed, they say I'm anxious, but they don't understand there's a big difference in meaning, even in Arabic and in English, in both words.
I think so. One of the things that I'm really interested in and really support through the work that we do across businesses, through some of the teaching that we do around well-being, and the one-to-one work that I do with people as well, is that in order to be able to deal with anything that we're facing, the first thing that we have to do is be able to name what's happening in our body. So actually being able to create a name for something that we're feeling helps us to validate the feelings that we have. But as I've already mentioned, I think we live in this distraction society where so many people have lost connection with their entire being, their entire body. And if you go to a primary school, I don't know if it's the same way you are, but if you go to a primary school in the UK, I've got a 14-year-old now. But I remember when he was really very small and, first time going to school, they had these charts on the wall with like a happy and a sad and a kind of a neutral face. And what they were doing there is teaching the children to have language around emotion that enabled them to talk about it. So how do I feel today? And how is this feeling showing up in my body? And how is this feeling showing up in my behavior? I was literally just chatting to, we have a cleaner in our house, which is an incredible privilege. And she's been cleaning for me for a year, and her daughter is a year old. So she brings her little girl with her to help cleaning, which is just delightful. And she was just saying that her little one, she's a year old, she started biting people. And I said, yeah, but it's that being able to release how you feel like in that moment. Of course, when you're biting someone is going to be a good way of doing that, because I don't have the vocabulary to be able to talk to someone about how I feel when I'm frustrated. But what we stop doing is we stop doing that at some point. I don't know when that happens with adults, where we stop saying, here is some language to help you be able to talk about how you're feeling. So whether that's fear, whether that's stress, whether that's anxiety, whether that's flow, whether it's joy, whether it's contentment, we've lost, I think, as adults, and frighteningly, I think, as younger people, the ability to actually name, to be able to label our emotions. So when people label their emotions, and they might use the word fear or anxiety, for me, it's about helping that person understand what that means to them. Yes, we might look in a dictionary and say, this is the definition of fear. This is, in psychology, the definition of anxiety. But it's about going to that person. If you say, how are you feeling today? And they say, I'm feeling anxious. what does anxiety feel like for you? Tell me more about that feeling. Where's that showing up in your body? How is that impacting on your behavior? How is that impacting on your overall well-being? So I think that how we name things might not technically, kind of dictionary version be the right language that we might use, but it's the reality for that person in that moment. And unless we support people to learn emotional language, have a shared language of emotions, then it becomes quite challenging. And I think we're losing the ability to do that. There's a lovely free tool, you can buy them as well, but it's just a circle of emotions. You've got the basic emotions, and then it kind of moves out. And it's just
We have it at the office, the emotion wheels, and
emotion wheel. Absolutely, yeah.
every time I go to the office, I keep looking at all the different emotions under, for example, I don't know, fear. So there are so many things under it, and I don't know, happiness, and I think you're correct when you say that they were not able to differentiate our emotions, and we're not able to accept them. My mentors, my Indian mentors, I'm a mindfulness coach, and I was certified through an Indian company, and we do a lot of meditation, and I love meditation, and I think meditation with my prayers as part of the whole package really makes me grounded, and I can connect with my inner self. So I always like to say this. My mentor once told us to do a meditation. It's called, I think in Hindi, it's called Rasa Sadhana, which is you imagine yourself in a magical forest, and I love their stories. And you're sitting underneath a magical tree, and you're breathing, and you encounter your emotions in terms as if they are real human beings coming to you. So, well, for example, we start usually with the worst emotions in the world. Oh, it's disgust. So you have this person who's called disgust is coming, and you shake his hand and tell him, "Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being there. Without you, I wouldn't know how to feel that way," and so on and so forth. Anger, fear, joy, happiness, inner peace, and so on. It's really important for people, and I always say that, to accept whatever you feel. I mean,
Yeah.
I accept sometimes I feel down. I mean, a few days ago, I think on Friday, I had this weird feeling and emotion, Emma, from the time I woke up till I slept. I felt, really not sad, but I wasn't in the mood of going anywhere. And I was with friends, and I was sitting really quiet. I didn't really know, didn't want to talk. I didn't want to. I just want to left alone for no apparent reason. But it's okay. I mean, I'm okay with it. I I accept it. Of course, people ask me what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can say, but I'm okay. It's fine. It's no problem. That's the problem with people. They don't accept their feelings.
I think that culturally, there are some emotions that we like, and there are some emotions that we don't like. We like to see happy people. You look at adverts, they're happy. We put happy people on adverts and we create these kind of, or we curate this kind of process of happiness, don't we, in the world? You look at Instagram and TikTok, and it's like, oh, I'm happy and doing really well. And of course, so I think culturally, if we see someone sad, if we see someone upset, it actually can make us feel quite uncomfortable. In different cultures, of course, expressions of that is going to be very different. In the UK, we have this saying in the UK, keep calm and carry on. It's like the most dangerous thing you could ever say to someone. We have all of these phrases, kind of particularly maybe for women, but pull your big girl pants on and keep moving forward. And this really toxic language that we're often using on a regular basis to say, don't feel those feelings. Feel these feelings. And actually, the reality is that, when we look at emotions, of course, emotions we tend to describe because we like to categorize, of course, our brain categorizes information. We categorize emotions as being good, bad, positive, negative. And the ones that we experience that we might describe as bad or negative, those kind of emotions of anger or upset or of disgust that you've just mentioned, we feel those at a different intensity in our body because our brain thinks we're in danger when we feel those things. So it's like the volume level got turned up on those emotions, and they're much more uncomfortable than they are when we feel joy and happiness. So we have this tendency to label them as good and bad. But the reality is that every emotion that we have is a spectrum of human emotions. Every one of them is there to serve us. You know, if we can see every emotion, just as you described, as a friend within us, that's there just inside going, excuse me, you feel like this. This is how you feel in this moment. And it's not forever. You know, we experience emotions. We're not emotions. We experience them. And just like we experience the sun disappears, you know, and we experience the moon, we experience the wind, we experience, you know, the rain. They go away. They're not forever. And so what we want to do is support people to lean into feeling comfortable with being uncomfortable, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so it's about being able to just sit with those emotions and think, I feel that. I genuinely feel that right now. And holding space and validating and labeling your emotions on a regular basis throughout the day is a really powerful thing because it helps us to see that actually no one feels happy all the time, do they? No one ever feels happy all the time, you know, but obviously positive psychology is my thing. I'm a positive psychology geek. I love it. But I think many people have misunderstood what it means, you know, that we're striving to be happy. And actually that's not attainable. You can't be happy all of the time. I think what we're really looking for is to be happier and having connection to joy, jolts of joy throughout our day. There's jolts of joy as they come in. We can bag them, you know, we can put them in our little kind of bag of or you know, some kind of container that we're kind of metaphorically thinking about. There's jolts of joy. If we can recognize and savor them as we move through our day, we become happier. They build up, the small things, they build up to something bigger. But you know, we talk about eudaimonia in positive psychology. Eudaimonic happiness is this feeling of contentment. But there's also another opposite to that, which is anhedonia, which is feeling feeling blur. I don't feel anything. And that's also a true state for the human experience.
I,
And the more,
I remember the movie. I don't know the Emoji movie. The one. I don't know. It was Disney. The animation.
oh yeah, I've never actually watched that. That's definitely something that I should look at.
You should because you know when you're talking right now, and I think about it, these movies, these animation, Inside Out, on
Okay.
feelings and the emojis also, they have a very important message that no one really understands. It's not the message of the movie. It's the message that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to feel meh. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad. So these, you know, this is the real message that they want to give. It's okay. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not bad. But the problem is, like you said, people look at Instagram, look at people. Oh, look how happy they are. And I always tell people that happiness is not having a smile 24/7. It's not laughing. And we in Egypt, you know, we define happiness when we want to talk happiness orbits.
Mhm.
We define happiness with three pillars. The first one is you have to have you have to have inner peace. You have to be okay with yourself. You have to be fine. You're I don't know, overweight. You are or no, you're okay. It's fine. Fine how you look. So you have to have that kind of knowledge. Second pillar is you know gratitude. You have to be grateful for what you have and know that you have things that you take for granted and you don't know how powerful they are. I mean, other people don't have it, so you have to be grateful. The third pillar is you have to always seek success every step of the way. You have to seek be more successful. Have a path towards your dreams. So people think that happiness is just being grateful. It's only one part of it. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm grateful to be alive, but I want to live my life in a nicer, lovelier way, healthier way. Maybe I want to live. I don't know. Maybe I want to live to 100 years. I don't know. I can't see the future, but that's the whole idea. Go ahead. You
I
want?
think um I think that peace is an interesting word because people feel that they should be like at some kind of level. And again, we don't feel peaceful all of the time. It's about acceptance. Again, the language that we use around that space is really interesting as to what that might mean to someone. But I think that when we feel like blur, when we're in that kind of middle point and we're just literally managing to function on a daily basis, the thought of trying to move towards some kind of positive goal or outcome can feel impossible in that moment. So that's why I think the jolts of joy of just having throughout the day being mindful about being grateful, like I just before we met this morning, Mo, I walked my dog. We walked down the river, and I could have walked down the river, and it could have just been a walk down the river. It's a task I need to do. I need to get the dog walked. I need to get back and do my work. Or I can spend time looking at the incredible nature, looking in the river, seeing the birds flying around and the trees are starting to bloom. We can see the green coming back and actually just being really present in that moment just adds some jolts of joy to my day. I've already started to build some joy in. Now, if I'm already feeling in that kind of point of I just need to get through my day, I miss those pieces. I forget to do that. So, of course, if we're feeling really kind of burnt out, really, we've got trauma that we haven't dealt with, then sometimes working towards something big can be just too much for us. It can be quite overwhelming. But actually, sometimes we're in that space and we're feeling really good and life is easier for us and we want to work towards those things. But sometimes we don't want to do that. So it's about recognizing the seasons of life that we're in. And sometimes we're in a season where we're absolutely, yes, I'm coming. Get ready, world. I'm here. And then sometimes we just want to curl up and it's about just being really mindful, being aware. Where am I at right now? It's not forever. It's just for now. And another thing that I just wanted to mention, Mo, as well, that after my experience of being bullied, I actually sought counselling. I went and had counselling. And I remember one of the most powerful and empowering things that happened to me in that moment of counselling was sorry, there's a real noise in here. I don't know if you could hear that. Was I kept saying to the counselor, he makes me feel like this. He makes me feel like that. He makes me feel the other. And I remember the counselor saying to me, no one can make you feel anything.
Yeah.
No one can make you feel anything. And it was like this light bulb came on that was, oh my gosh, I'm enabling this person to make me feel these things. I get to choose. I've got a circle of control here that I can tap into and I can make choices. And it really was one of the most powerful things I've experienced and something that I hold on to this day that I get to choose.
Yeah.
I get to behave in the way that I want to behave in, and I get to choose how, not choose my feelings, because, obviously I feel the things that I do, but I get to take control of what I do with those feelings. And the release that came with that, because I suddenly was like, that's his. They're his things, his issues.
Exactly.
There was a real sense of peace that came with that. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. And I wanted to understand from you what 5 tips would you give for stress release in the workplace? Because uh, my listeners and people are around the world are all having stress, feeling it in different levels.
Yeah.
Here in Egypt, of course, we're feeling stressed, extra stressed because the economy is not too great. The currency is really bad. The inflation rate is really bad. Prices are, they're fluctuating like crazy. I mean, things can be one price for an hour, and the second hour be a different price. So, and it's felt throughout the society here, my country, region, and most probably even around the world, that there's a lot of anger and fear and it has nothing to do with your lower class, middle class, upper class. Doesn't really differentiate which which part of society you are in. I mean,
Yeah.
we are all feeling the pain on some kind of level. So
Yeah.
so what five tips would you?
Okay. So I was trying to write them down quickly as you were saying, thinking about them. So I'm going to say my first tip is to check in and feel the feelings, um, and name the feelings. Like get a chart. Just you can pull it up on Google. The feelings wheel that we've just talked about. Pull it up and just check in with it. Print it off. Have it somewhere nearby. Just what is the feeling that I feel? That's the first thing I would say, and do that regularly throughout the day if you can. The second one is validate it. Validate the feeling and understand that feelings are feelings. They're all human feelings. They're not good and they're not bad. They just are what they are. So validate that you feel that thing right now. And there's a reason, a good reason why you feel it. I think my third one is look at what you can and can't control. So what I didn't mention is that I spent 16 years in service as a police officer before being diagnosed with a really rare brain condition. I had to have major brain surgery, and that's why I'm no longer a police officer. I thought I would be a police officer my entire service. So after my brain surgery, I was medically retired from the police because I'd got part of my skull and spine missing. It was too dangerous for me to continue to work as a police officer. But the circle of influence around that was I get to choose the experience I have in brain surgery. There were feelings of fear and worry and anger and upset, but actually I chose to look for the positive and possible. I felt all the feelings, but I looked at what can I control in this space? And I focused on that in that moment of trauma, in that moment of challenge and difficulty. I looked for what can I control. So my third one will be, what can you control here? My fourth one is self-care. Self-care it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be, going on a weekend spa somewhere. It can be just something really simple, like just taking some deep breaths, walking in nature, having a really nice cup of something that you enjoy, a herbal tea, a coffee, whatever it might be, and savoring it in that moment. Self-care doesn't have to be huge, but it's about just taking a moment of time based on the feelings that you're feeling that actually you're going to do something to support you positively right now. And my fifth one is connection, because, we are lonely. So many people are lonely. Reach out, find someone to talk to, a friend, a relative. I've got a dog here. I talk to him all the time. I talk to the dog. But there's feelings that we get from being with people, the oxytocin that's released in our brain. We can also get in nature. So if we can't connect to people, connect to nature. Even if it's just for a moment outside, take your shoes off, stand on the ground, touch a tree, hold a plant, whatever it might be. Those feelings can really have, it sounds really silly, but they do scientifically, they've been proven to have such a big difference.
No,
So
no,
my five are feel it,
yeah,
second, validate it, third, control, fourth, self-care, and fifth, connection.
yeah, they're amazing. I mean, I like all five of them, and I think I also agree with you. Connection is key. We're social animals by nature, and we feed off from the energy of others. So yeah, I think the connection also is really amazing, especially nature and nature walks. And we always say this. We have clients. Yeah, walking is an amazing meditation in itself because you are mindful because you're present. You know where you are, breathing, breathing out. But that's really amazing. Oh yeah, I can see your dog. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's behind you.
There he is.
Hello.
Is
What's
it, is,
what's his name?
He's called Blake. He's a golden doodle. So he's a big fluffy bear and he's the sweetest thing you could ever wish to meet.
Okay.
He likes to have hugs.
Hi, Blake. Okay, so I have two final questions. One of them is I want to ask you what's one word or one sentence that describes
Ooh, I'm going to say creative.
you. Hey, that's amazing, amazing, amazing. That's great. And finally, what's your dream?
What's what, sorry?
What's your dream? What's your hope? What do you want to do?
My dream.
Yeah,
My dream is to help as many organizations as possible create the most outstanding places that support people to actually go to those workplaces and feel good and thrive.
that's amazing, amazing. Thank you, Emma, for your time. I know we can stay for a long time talking together because I really enjoyed your conversation and really enjoyed your story. And I think you are an amazing human being and very tough and strong woman, uh,
Thank
especially because it's not an easy in, industry or area as a police woman. Um, in addition, policing is a difficult job. It has a lot of stress and a lot of issues. Uh, I really thank you for the service that you gave.
you.
You're such an amazing human being, and thank you very much for being with us on Wellness with Mo. I hope we can continue. That would be my honor and my humble. I would be really humbled to have you as a guest again.
Yeah, amazing.
Thank you, thank you. Uh,
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing. I've really enjoyed chatting to you too.
Same here, same here, same here. Thank you everyone for listening in. God bless you and be safe. And until next week, be mindful.